Roll. Well, hi everyone. We may get a person or two, or we may lose some people, but while we're all here, there's 7 of us on the line right now. There's 2 folks calling in, 1 person mostly using the chat box, and 4 of us with our videos up. For those who don't already know me, I'm Paul Baines. I'm one of the animators here at Great Lakes Commons. I'm physically in Toronto on the North Shore of Lake Ontario, and this is our 3rd planning meeting for a Great Lakes Commons Journey project, which we sort of came up with last spring as a project to really animate and illustrate what we stand for and what we're trying to do. And that is really cross all kinds of boundaries, not only geographic boundaries, cultural boundaries, story boundaries, around what the perpetual care of the Great Lakes can and should look like. And so one of the groups that really inspired us was a group called Children of the Wild, which is a theater group that's going to be touring the Great Lakes, all 5 of them, well, 4 actually, but long story, with a performance. And so their big vision thinking really inspired me and others at Great Lakes Commons to think about a journey of our own, and in the commoning sort of ethic. Rather than just create something on our own, we really wanted to open up an invitation to see where there was existing energy, people already working on, using motion as a way to illustrate their care, and as a way to actually experience either the lakes or the streams that feed into the lakes and the rivers, or the water under our feet. And so these planning meetings are as a way for people to sort of get filled in on some of the backstory if needed, which I've kind of finished in some ways, to ask me direct questions, but mostly just to connect with each other. I think we have 2 people from Rochester here already, plus 1 person from Fairhaven. And so there's always interesting combinations of people here. And as we'll go around with our introductions in a second, we'll get a sense of where, who people are, what they're thinking, either starting a journey or joining a journey or even supporting one in any way they can. And I'll share with everybody who doesn't already have it a link to a shared Google document, which we've been using also as a planning tool. And this can really help us just make sure that we get the information correct. For those who are on the phone, I'll come to you in a second, I'll email this out to people after the meeting today. It's just a Google document to sort of share sort of key dates, needs, wants, ways in which we can work together on this and collaborate. Because even though Great Lakes Commons has a sort of big vision, we're very small capacity. So this way, if everybody does a little bit of that note-taking and that coordination, we can sort of get there. And so I'll stop talking. We got a couple more people who have joined via the phone. Maybe we'll just do a quick, the person calling from the 2184 area code. What's your name?
Lorraine Norgard.
Oh, hi, Lorraine. I should have figured that out.
Hi, Paul.
I'm just gonna, Lorraine, okay. And we've got, I see Gus is on the line there. We've got Marina already. We've got somebody from the 3159 area code. What's your name?
Oh, that could be me. Patty Campbell, Fairhaven 315-947.
Okay, yep. Great. I have the ability to rename these phone numbers into actual names, so that way I'll have to keep asking. Okay, now that I've got that done, we'll go around the clock here. I've got everybody here in speaker view, and maybe we'll just do a quick round of introductions of your name, where you're calling from, if you're involved with the group or not, and maybe how you found out about. Is this your first meeting or second meeting, or what's your relationship to Great Lakes Commons, just so we all get a sense of who we are. And so Jen, do you want to go first?
Sure. So my name's Jennifer Pate, and I live in Bayfield, Ontario, on the shores of Lake Huron. I am leading a mass engagement project this summer on the Great Lakes, looking at plastics and toxics and sort of trying to engage people to see the Great Lakes in a totally different way and sort of instill this duty of care by giving them a really tangible project to start with. So I really see this one-day event on the 20th of August as a gateway to open up. You know, I talk to people all the time about how much they love the Great Lakes, but giving them something really tangible that they feel a part of something bigger, and giving them a really great way to take that forward. So Paul actually got in touch with me through the website, and we had a great meeting, and I've connected with Susan already, and it's nice to see your face, Susan, after our emails. And I'm looking for it, and you connected me to Gus as well. I haven't had a chance to respond to that email, so it's nice to have him on the call too. So I feel like, part of this new community, which is always a really exciting thing to experience, and this is my first call.
Great. Well, I'm glad you could be here, Jen. Susan, did you want to then go next? Susan? Oh, maybe she froze. Okay, we'll go over to Gus for a little bit. Gus, do you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, I'm Gus. Thank you. I'm a filmmaker in Asheville, Massachusetts, originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm with a company called Children of the Wild. I know a couple of you, and I don't know others of you, so that's exciting. We are, for those of you who don't know, we are, Children of the Wild is embarking on a trip across the Great Lakes this summer, touring a show that we've created. It's a traveling opera that takes us on a journey of ecological grief. So this tour across the Great Lakes is going to go from Buffalo, New York to Duluth, Minnesota, from June until September. And we'll be in Cleveland, we'll be in Lorain, Ohio, we'll be in Detroit, we'll be through Mackinac, and we'll be in Duluth. And we've been working with the Great Lakes Commons in some capacity for some time now. And so it's almost time to tour. I'm very excited. It's hard to believe the summer is almost here. We've been talking and planning and working for a couple of years on this, and here we are. We got our show. We're premiering our show at the end of the month. I'm so excited. So we're getting ready to do it. So I'm excited to be talking to some of you who I haven't met before. It's very exciting to see what else is going on. This is all cool.
Wonderful. And Gus, I've updated your tour dates on the Google Doc, which for those who are on the using their computer, you'll see in the chat box the updated dates that like Gus mentioned. And as I said earlier, I think Gus was just joining us. That Children of the Wild was one of the inspirations of this thinking big of a journey idea that has led us to today. And while I've been working on this journey thing for a couple of months, they've been working on this idea for a couple of years. And so a real big inspiration for me. Susan, how's your computer?
I might be on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear Susan.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm a writer, and I learned about the Commons while I was doing research on a book. And now we're putting together a video and mentioning the Commons in that. So I hope to get that out. Oh, yeah, there's Paul putting good bully, yes. Very good. And I really want to try to connect up with Jen this summer and invite her to come to Fairhaven with, if possible, with the Sea Dragon crew, and perhaps we can build an event or some kind of action around that, if there's any way we can do that. So I'm kind of excited about that because I'm a sailor myself, and I'm fascinated by that washed ashore group that makes these sculptures, and kind of would like to do something like that here and use it as an education and outreach project. So I just washedashore.org. Very, very interesting. So anyway, yeah.
Okay, we'll go a bit deeper next round through. Maybe we'll jump over to one of the people on the phone here. Hey, Patty, did you want to say hi and where you're calling from and how you? Yes,
hi. I am calling from Fairhaven, a beautiful spot on Lake Ontario, and near Oswego, between Oswego and Rochester. And we would love to have that play Children of the Wild come to Fairhaven, as Susan just said. Yes, I'm connected with Susan, who are activists here. And I just want to share a vision I've had in the last maybe week or so, but these things come to me in the night, and I envisioned this like traveling a group of hikers, maybe bikers, but all carrying the same kind of symbolism of a flag or banner or something. And hiking would be cool if we could somehow connect with people going from Duluth to, I don't know where, Chicago to whatever, Toledo or something, and just connecting all the way down the Great Lakes and maybe on the Canadian side as well. And then there could be a great meeting in the Thousand Islands, let's say, at the end of the Great Lakes or in the beginning of the St. Lawrence. But that was a vision I had. I don't know if there's any way to organize anything like that, if there's interest from you guys, but that was a vision I had, and I wanted to share it.
Yeah. So Patty, let's come back to this, and maybe even just trying to get Lake Ontario, the shoreline, the southern shoreline of Lake Ontario, with a walk or a hike or a bike ride or a combination. I think there's
connecting with people from Buffalo.
If we can start with Lake Ontario, I think we could get some great momentum. And so let's come back to that idea. I do know some people, and we all likely could lend a hand in that with our contacts. And so let's.
Oh, great!
Thanks for that quick introduction. We'll go over to Lorraine on the phone.
Hi, yeah, this is Lorraine Norgard, and I'm very excited to hear all these different people on the call. And this is the second call I've been on, and I am based in Duluth, Minnesota, or that area. Excuse me. And I'm working on a grandmother's gathering that's going to take place at Madeline Island on August 14th for 4 days to appreciate Lake Superior. And I'm also working, trying to help Children of the Wild as in their performance Connections in Duluth in September. And I'm excited because the third Sunday in July is going to be Lake Superior Day. And I hope to add to the map and add to the listings all the different things that are going to be happening around the lake on that day. So there's lots going on. It's really exciting, and I hope to be in connection with more as I listen to the talks today.
Wonderful, thanks. And Lorraine's also added a couple of those dates and a little bit of her bio on the Google document. And so I encourage anybody who's enrolled, and I will email it out to those joining by phone, as just a way to really help capture some of these names, links, dates, things like that. We don't want to get anything wrong. Thanks again for that, Lorraine. Let's pop over to Alexandra, a new face for me, and so maybe just a bit about yourself for for everybody here.
Hi, I'm Alex. I am the executive director of Save the Wild UP. We are an environmental organization dedicated to fighting the spread of sulfide mining in the Lake Superior region. And, we've worked with an individual named Ben Weber. He's a musician who has sort of been bringing the Great Lakes Commons Charter to other places around Lake Superior. He did this really cool circumnavigation around the lake last summer to draw attention to water issues, and we were able to participate with him in that way. So we really try to establish primary experiences of wild places for people. We get people out into the sort of unpaved wild heart of the UP and help them experience nature in a way that is new and that sort of reestablishes that sort of instinctive connection to the natural world that we tend to lose as we get a little bit older or a little bit more embedded in technology and whatever. But this is my first call with the Great Lakes Commons. I'm really happy to be here. It's so nice to see all of these other fellow concerned citizens. And
yeah.
Great, so glad you could join us. And just bring Ben's joined us for a few of these calls, but I can speak. I spoke to Ben yesterday. I email with him every week, and I'll put it in the chat box in a second. His surrounding water tour of Lake Superior, which was also, me and Gus, I've talked about Children of the Wild, Ben's circumnavigation by bicycle of Lake Superior. Actually, I've biked around Lake Ontario, so I've seen Fairhaven and Oswego and all the rest of it. I've biked Lake Erie. So all the water walkers, last year they did 3 months, Sacred Water Walkers with grandmother Josephine Mandeman watched for 3 months from the St. Lawrence to the Madeline Islands. So all of these journeys, bicycle, by foot, by boat, hopefully, are inspirations and mutually reinforcing. And so I have a quick question though for Alex. So are you guys involved with that couple living in the Boundary Waters thing, or like how does that link up? There's a couple who are camping in the wilderness on the south shore of Lake Superior to raise awareness around the beauty of that place. And again, my geography and knowledge of the area is so slim, but I just saw the video Ben sent me.
Yeah, no, that's Dave and Amy Freeman. And they are just two wonderful human beings who are living in the Boundary Waters, which is in Minnesota, to draw attention. And there's the Polymet Twin Metals sulfide mine that has they've been gunning to get a sulfide mine in the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. So we sort of shared an event with them, I want to say in the fall of 2014. They were on campus here in Marquette talking about their work, and we sort of pulled them in to speak to a group of our interns. But, whenever we can help and share their message with our supporters or our base, we do. We let them know, we really want people to be aware that they're not alone in the fight against sulfide mining, because it can be kind of alienating. So yeah, they're wonderful. They're great people doing really good work.
Okay. And I want to come back to that again, but I want to keep going around clock. So thanks again. We haven't heard from Marina yet on the phone. Marina, do you want to say hi and your link so far?
Sure. My name's Marina, and I'm living in Toronto currently. I'm an educator. I currently teach grade 8, but I'm also part of an advisory committee that promotes outdoor education and just sort of strategizes within our board on how to make that happen. I've been in touch or involved with the Great Lakes Commons since last year, and have been did the previous planning session, and have been involved in some of these calls. I've done some of the events like the canoe journey we did on Lake Ontario. So that pretty much is my extent. So I've been a part of it for a little bit.
Great. And I want to hear your plans for the spring and summer soon because you're as a kayaker, Marina. But and so we'll just keep moving around, just make sure we get everybody in. First couple of words. Sally, do you want to say hi?
Hi. I'm from Rochester, New York right now. I just have always had an interest in the Great Lakes. I'm a science teacher, recently retired science teacher. I taught biology and chemistry, and I've lived along the shoreline of Lake Ontario in the summers for my whole life, and have been involved in organizations like Save Oswego County and Great Lakes United, to help preserve the Great Lakes, and have just in the last few years joined the Great Lakes Committee of the Sierra Club. So, and I must admit that I did not attend the most recent meeting, so I'm a little behind in what we're doing this summer, but we're interested in projects that have to do with the Great Lakes and their preservation.
Cool. And Sally, could you tell me a bit more about what the Sierra Club has done around the Great Lakes, or maybe I'm just very curious on with your background in science or with Rochester water issues or just the Sierra Club. Could you maybe just say a bit more about what they've been doing about Great Lakes?
Well, I'm not really sure. They've attended an awful lot of meetings and disseminated information. We've been trying to do some things related to bottled water, and we've shown how good Rochester water is, and how it's not necessary to be buying bottled water, and many educational kind of things, bringing people to Rochester to speak and like that. I can't specifically think of anything. We've had the Maud Barlow information, books and things available, and we've had speakers every year since I've been on the committee. I know. So.
Cool.
But I'm not in charge of it, so that I can't tell you too much about all of that.
Mhm. All right. And so that's great. And we have one last person, Rochelle, whose microphone doesn't have a microphone, and so she's using the chat box quite actively. And so I for those who can't read it themselves, who are on the phone, I will read it aloud. But just before I do, I mean, just hearing a little bit. This is the third call now. But again, people are still wondering like what this journeying or what Great Lakes Commons is really trying to accomplish. In many ways, ideally, this journeying project can help illustrate that, which is a really interesting combination. I mean, a very holistic approach to water care. You know, a lot of water NGOs look at water quality in terms of the plastics pollution we could talk about, or the side effects or the externalities of extreme energy or pipelines or mining. But, you know, we can also talk about sort of the emotions involved with this work, be they sort of celebratory and gratitude ones, be they about grief and sort of what's been lost, to issues of identity and culture. She was on the call the last time, a woman named Lindsay. They're going to be doing a 3-day paddle down the Grand River, which feeds into Lake Erie within Canadian borders, and to raise awareness about the Truro Wampum, which is a treaty belt with beads around sharing the lands and the waters. And so we really feel like water isn't just this resource, nor is it just this sacred element that sustains life. It's an active part of how we see ourselves in the world, and where our identity is based in these shorelines, in these watersheds, and really thinking about how our sort of the cultural transmission and cultural learnings, be they within a culture or across cultures, that's the crossing boundaries thing we talk about, and how maintaining these protocols, these ceremonies, these treaties are so important and included in the Great Lakes Commons vision as a long-term perpetual plan. And then of course we have issues of bottled water, which not only has the plastics pollution sort of aspects to it, but also has the issues of commodification and disconnection from our water bodies. And so I've heard a little bit of all of those in today's call or in the previous calls. So if that helps, just, you know, what we're trying to do is open up as many threads so that people can animate any parts of those while again adding to the whole. And so I'll read Rochelle's thing. She says, "Hi, I'm Rochelle," as that exclamation mark, from Rochester, another Rochester. So I see this Lake Ontario walk, bike ride, sail thing coming together so easily. This is her first meeting. She was told about this meeting through the Great Lakes Committee in Rochester, who she's been involved with on a minor level, but trying to be more involved. She agrees with Sally. She thinks the primary output right now has been sort of local education and keeping space for concerned citizens. And so great to see all the Southern Lake Ontario reps here. And one of my fondest memories of my bike trip around Lake Ontario was visiting Rochester. We were so taken in by the canoe club there. Does anyone know anybody down by that canoe club in Rochester?
Ironquoit Bay.
Yeah, they're so nice. They made us. We stayed there all day. There was a regatta on that day. My friend and I. They brought us on boats. They fed us lunch. They fed us dinner. They were so intrigued about our trip and what we were doing, and a real tight community there of boaters. And it was so nice. So only good memories of Rochester.
Great.
Lowboat sailors. They're the best kind.
Wonderful. So I wanted to dig a little deeper with a couple of things, and feel free to use the chat box or just jump in here because it's not my meeting. This is our meeting. But I was wondering, I guess, going back to Alex, what are you guys planning with any sort of like events or motion or journeying as part of your programming this year, either as the Save the UP or in conjunction with other individuals, artists, organizations? Is there anything in the works? And I mean, eventually I would love to see anything in the Google document, but just verbally, so we can all maybe start getting our wires crossed here.
Yeah, so I actually did just dump all of our summer events into the Google Doc, so they're there for everybody. But actually, so the closest one we have that's a collaboration is with the Menominee Tribe of Wisconsin. And they're holding a water walk to draw attention to like the widespread opposition against the Aquila mine, which would be an open pit sulfide mine on the banks of the Menominee River, which is the border between Michigan and Wisconsin, and is their ancestral homeland. So we've been working with them, just trying to help in any way we can. But that will be occurring April 23rd through the 25th. And actually, grandmother Josephine is going to be part of that walk as well, as I heard somebody mention her. So we're really honored, I think, to have been able to help them plan and to be a part of it. And then after that, we've got a whole summer full of events. And this is something I think actually that my president had discussed with you about, sort of including not just the Great Lakes, but its headwaters and its watersheds. And because specifically we work, our work sort of brings us to focus on not just Lake Superior, but also Lake Michigan, because the rivers in the UP, the river systems, run both ways. And we're working on issues that could bring like detrimental pollution to both lakes. So we have events that are sort of bringing people to the headwaters of large river systems in the Upper Peninsula, whether it's the wetlands, and we're bringing artists out there so that they can then become inspired and share that work with our community, or if we're going out to discover the threatened plants that can only live in, inundated lands, water inundated lands, so that people understand what water creates and the types of habitats and environments that are irreplaceable. So we have all of that list. That list is going in the shared Google Doc. We don't have anything in terms of like sort of a moving event, nothing like besides the event with the Menominee, but nothing like a bike ride along the shoreline or anything. So I mean, if there's anything that anybody else is thinking of that they want to bring to Marquette or to the Upper Peninsula, we would be happy to collaborate and help spread the news in any way that we can.
Okay, so that's great. I'm so glad you could put that in there, and I'll send this document out, link to those on the phone. And yeah, it would be great to support and promote the Menominee River sort of walk, which I guess like Earth Day sort of timing.
Yes.
And I know that there's going to be some sailing and beach cleanup on Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. Maybe Jen can speak a bit more to that in a second. And so we could maybe get a sort of a confluence of two things coming together. But it also opens up an opportunity for somebody who did want to hike or bike or walk or paddle, maybe to one of these events in August or in July, I see here, just as a way to, again, just get people on the water or headwaters, or thinking about this sort of reciprocity. And so we could put our minds together for this one. All right. Anything else, Alex, you wanted to add about what we could? Go ahead, Patty.
I have a question or a comment, and I was just wondering if there could be one symbol that unites us as the Great Lakes Commons, one flag, banner, something that if some artist could come up with a single symbol that would, be in common with all of us. But that's an idea to throw out there to any artistic groups.
That's a great question, but it also raises more questions, which is great because I think I'm here to learn as well. Because the Great Lakes Commons has occupied, we use that word as so many meanings, by so many different people. It can be hard to rally under, especially one flag, if not one symbol, because of the plurality here. But I have seen over the years certain messages that really speak across boundaries, that really sort of transmit and their trans message. And one of those is the statement, we are water. That has really sort of been true. Not some people use the commons language. Some people use the creator, and they talk about sort of homeland, and so there's various conceptions of, and then there's obviously we've got various nations, both settler nations, we've got indigenous nations, and so while at first I'm like, oh geez, one symbol is it could flatten or try to homogenize this very diverse movement. I do think the effort, or that there could be something like We Are Water, that is a very uniting thing, because I truly believe, I think we all could agree, that water is the great uniter here, that flows through all of these struggles, inspirations, the creativity of all this. And so I would love to sort of see a design or something, even for just the journey, the Great Lakes journey, a certain sort of symbol, whatever. And so I don't have.
It wouldn't have to be maybe it could be like a banner rather than one symbol, but a banner showing some of the diversity within the Great Lakes.
Love it. What do others think?
I guess I kind of just think simply in terms of like an outline of the basin, and on a green kind of flag, blue waters on a green flag.
Other ideas?
I think something from the indigenous people would be appropriate as well as that idea. I mean.
Okay, well, I've got a note on that, and it'll be part of the record. And let's see how. I mean, if you've got some images, you could share those on our Facebook page, or you can email them. We can get feedback, and I think again a way to unite. I mean, even just the outline of the Great Lakes, just the sort of the basin border, the shorelines. Which again, no offense, Alex, the headwaters are important too, and so. How do we represent this interconnectedness is really a good challenge. Yeah,
I think was it Alex that mentioned something about the watersheds and recognizing that there's a lot going on within the watersheds. And here in Lake Ontario, we have the Finger Lakes system, and there's a huge protest has been going on for about a year and a half, 2 years maybe, coming up on 2 years, in the Seneca Lake. And it's really big. There's something that goes on weekly with demonstrations because they're trying to store natural gas in the bottom of this old salt mines in Seneca Lake. Seneca Lake is very deep, very, very deep, 600, 800 feet deep. And these salt mines are deteriorating. So anyway, we've been protesting and getting arrested. There have been about 600 people that have been getting arrested, some going to jail. And it's really, really, really a big thing. And people like Bill McKibben have been here. Josh Fox has been here. Naomi Klein was in the area recently and gave a supportive talk for the We Are Seneca Lake people. And it's strong. So we would hope Great Lakes Commons could also, be supportive of We Are Seneca Lake.
Yeah, I would love if, and so once I email you the Google Doc, Patty, please add in any links or events like that. And I'm curious if anybody in New York State there has connections with, Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's an Anishinaabe lecturer at Syracuse University, who's written a little bit about Seneca Lake and is a real inspiration for me and really embodies many of these commons principles. So does anybody know Robin Wall Kimmerer personally?
I don't.
Okay, well, we could try to get a hold of her and connect her with some of this stuff, Patty, and, or sorry, Sal. Okay, I've made a note there as well. I was curious about, who was it now? Well, Marina, have you, are you joining any paddles, or is there a shoreline cleanup? Or maybe I could talk to both Marina here and Jen. What's going on with the shoreline cleanup for Lake Ontario, and how can people maybe near Toronto get more involved?
Well, I think one of the, I don't think it started up just yet. I know there is a gentleman named John who does a meetup group that does, you do a little paddling or canoeing, and you go off to a particular shoreline in Lake Ontario near the city there, and you just do a cleanup and then call it a day. So it's pretty, like, it's interesting some of the things that you find.
Believe that.
Yeah, generate some good conversation, that's for sure. So that's something I did last year, which I really enjoyed. But also there's another gentleman, Richard, who does his own sort of kind of a different approach where he will collect recyclables and liquor bottles, and then the money that he raises for the deposits that he gets from liquor bottles goes to an organization called Romeo House, which assists new immigrants to settle in Canada, in particular Toronto. So that's stuff that's been going on like around the area, I guess, the last little while. And I know for the latter, it's still going on, but it's usually a one-man team right now with Richard and his project. So, but yeah, I think once I'll probably go back into that in a couple of weeks' time. So, but yeah, that's what's been going on, I guess, in the last little while. Yeah, and in terms of, I know a lot of the schools are something a little bit not as related, but just going on to cleanups. I know a lot of the schools are doing all across the board, and probably several boards that are doing like Earth Day cleanups. So they call it a clean sweep. So next week is Earth Day, and a lot of schools go out and do just a 20-minute cleanup, see what they can get, and then just kind of tidy up their area. So there's, so there's stuff like that going on as well. I know across different boards.
Okay.
Hi, Paul, and everyone else. This is Robert. I just joined the meeting about 7.
Wonderful. I was just going to say there's two folks who have just joined via phone. So we've got Robert. So much thanks for joining us and just introducing yourself, Robert. And who's the other phone?
Oh, yeah, I'm on the phone, so
that's okay.
That's why you don't see me.
There's a few phone calls. One second. I just want to get everybody. Who's the other 416 caller? Who's new?
It's me, Dawn.
Oh, hi, Dawn. You went over the phone. Okay.
I joined by phone.
That's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I've got everybody accounted for here. And so maybe, John, do you want to just introduce yourself very quickly of like who you are and what brings you to the call today, and then we'll do the same for Robert, and then I want to go back to this shoreline cleanup with Jen if we could.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dawn, and I've been with the project a couple of times, or one time, and just this time somebody's calling me. How dare they? How dare they call me? And it's an unknown number. It's actually an obscene phone call. Anyways, I'm here because I'm very interested in the journeying of the lakes, like the sacredness of the lakes, and making the lakes sacred. And I'm very concerned about the conservation of the lakes, and so passionate about it, water and everything. And so that's my reason for joining. Sorry I came so late. I never knew a journey that would take half an hour took 2 hours. Like, the streetcars were just absolutely mayhem.
Yeah, and for those who know Toronto, that is the way it is. So Robert, do you want to jump in?
Hi, guys. Yeah, Robert, I've known Paul for a couple of years now, helping him out with some the mapping stuff as well as some other things. I'm interested. The Great Lakes are a gift for the world, and we're lucky enough to live, very close to them. And I just want to help preserve them as much as we can. I guess they are being abused in some ways. So whatever we can do to keep them in a pristine, or make them more pristine and keep them in good shape for future generations. So.
Yeah, and Robert, we got to talk about cycling. We've got a bit of energy here for some cycling on Lake Ontario especially
Yep.
the American side. And so maybe we could go drill down with that later. But I'd love to hear how we can put those great words into action this summer and have some fun. And so let's
Yep.
keep cycling in the mix here.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Back
I
to
just wanted to throw in, like you guys were talking, I think it was Robin was talking about shoreline cleanup stuff a few minutes ago. And I believe on top of the stuff that she's mentioned, TRCA is doing coordinating some events, I believe.
that's the Toronto Region Conservation Authority.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. And I believe they're coordinating some things. It's probably on their website, TRCA events or whatever. And I know there's one coming up in the west end of Toronto where I live. I believe at Colonel Sam Smith Park. And I think it might actually be this coming weekend or something. But I know there's a local group that coordinates those every year, a couple times a year.
And so this,
On
yeah,
top of,
I will, if you've got a link, I would love to sort of email to me, or I can go looking as well. And so it's great to hear these ideas. And I think part of these phone calls for me are also a way to weave in some of the common threads versus having just like a patchwork of simultaneous events this summer, how we can create a little bit of a narrative here around how one thing supports the other, or how each of these speaks to a different perspective of this shared vision, or what kinds of questions we can be developing in tandem, that questions in which we wouldn't have thought about unless we were interacting with each other. And so rather than a bulletin board sort of methodology, it's nice to sort of see how we could either infect other events, or how events can help infect this journeying project in some way, and have that sort of back and forth. And so I wouldn't mind just keep putting that out there as an intention as well. Maybe we could finish off this shoreline cleanup thing. I know because some people have been involved in it or mentioned it. For those who don't know, Jens, who's joined us on video from Bayfield on Lake Huron, is doing this project. There's more information on the Google Doc around a simultaneous day of people on boats and sailboats and boats, and doing shoreline cleanups. And she's partnered with some pretty other organizations which do shoreline cleanups. And so I'm wondering how Great Lakes Commons and the people on this call, because some of us here are part of organizations, some of us are just coming here as individuals, like Don and Robert, and how we could plug into and support these cleanups. If we have a boat, we can get on a kayak. If we don't, maybe we could do this day of action. So any updates for the group here, Jen, on the cleanup, the shoreline cleanup aspects? And then maybe you and Gus can have a quick back and forth around the sailboats.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of you, it might just be really useful for me to give you a little bit of background about the project, and it is happening, so that's really exciting. So in 2014, I sailed across the Atlantic Ocean as part of an all-female crew looking at plastics and toxics in the Atlantic, but also talking about the implications for human and environmental health. And the fact that, sponges act as plastic act as sponges for toxics, and they're making their way back to us through the food chain. So we're really trying to start that conversation with people and saying it's not just out there in the oceans, but it's actually right here in our backyard. And the Great Lakes actually have a higher density of microplastics than any of the ocean gyres. So that's really where my passion lies. And so when I went on that crossing, I had that very real experience of taking plastics out of the ocean, ones that I could see, but the majority of which were completely invisible to the naked eye. And then getting my results back later and realizing, this water that looked pure and clean actually had on average 536 pieces of microplastic per liter. So I started thinking to myself, how can I, if that's going to change my behavior and my attitude towards, as someone who's already conscious of water issues, how can I bring that to everybody, especially here in the Great Lakes, where there really is this sort of untapped love for the Great Lakes, but people don't necessarily have a tangible way of contributing to something bigger, or they just don't know where to start. And so I started designing this one-day mass engagement event. So I've got all-female lead sailboats going on all 5 of the Great Lakes, Lake St. Clair and St. Lawrence River. and they're all sailing at the same time on the 20th of August at 10 a.m. But I'm also inviting anybody and literally anybody to get involved in whatever way they can. So whether you're male or female, adult, child, people want to do it alone or they want to do it in groups as a community, to do 2 activities. The first is water sampling for microplastics, and that's in partnership with Adventurers and Scientists for Conservation out of the States. And then we're also partnered with 2 cleanup organizations. In Canada, I've partnered with the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup, and in the US, I've partnered with Alliance for the Great Lakes Adopt a Beach program. So the basically how I see this day working is it's a springboard. It's an opening of a door for people to engage with the Great Lakes in a completely different way, and to really start to instill that duty of care in people, to realize, as Robert said, we are so lucky to live here. And, you know, as part of that, we have a responsibility to care for our backyard. And right now, we're not doing that, whether we're aware of it or we're not, or we choose to see it or we don't. So I'm really excited to be on this phone call, and I'm already in my mind starting to make connections with people that I'd love to see get involved. And, you know, Gus, I think you and I can take some conversations forward about how we could get you sailing around the Great Lakes this summer. I'm still tapping into, you know, the sailing community, but they're, as Susan will attest to, an incredible community of people who have really, you know, they connect with the environment in such a different way than people who are based on land. And they are already pretty active. So it's been really great talking to organizations about the sailing community, because they're kind of this untapped, beautiful resource for them to collect data and to act in the face of these global challenges. So in terms of the cleanups that Marina was talking about, you know, we're really excited that people can kind of partner with the cleanups with the water sampling. I don't see, you know, one necessarily negating the other, because ASC has developed these freshwater protocols for sampling for microplastics, by which people can sample multi-platform. So it can be from a sailboat or a motorboat, but can also be from a kayak or a canoe or a paddleboard, or even just from your local pier or wading into the lake or creek or river. And that was another important thing, was not just focusing on the lakes themselves, but as Alex highlighted, those connecting waterways, because it's a whole system. And if you're gonna get people to care about, you know, their little piece, and then make them aware that it fills and it's connected to everything. And, you know, we are connected to the ocean. Everybody's downstream. So, you know, I hope you guys will check out my little blurb in the Google Doc, and sign up and send me an email if you're interested in getting involved, whether that's on a lead boat or leading something in your community, whatever it is. But anyway, I'll stop talking now.
Well, it's great to hear. Any responses or questions for Jen?
Yeah, what's your email, Jen?
Yeah, so my email is jen@, and it's it's xexpedition. Actually, I'm just going to type it in the chat box. That's probably
Dawn's on the phone, so she won't
be able to get it.
Okay, so basically I can just tell you the name of the project is xexpedition. It's basically expedition with 2 X's. We thought we were being pretty clever because we're all women, you know, XX chromosome, that kind of thing.
That was too clever for me.
But yeah, so please, you know, do get in touch and let's start some conversations, because there's so many different threads. And as I said, I really see this as the opening of a door for people, because, you know, I had a meeting the other day and they were like, but it's just the plastics issue. And I was like, no, it's so much more than that. It's about engaging people, and they will.
Well, I have a question and a comment. Let's see. So I think it's important that any action that we take, we have to report it to Great Lakes Commons, right? So so that you can feel the waves of this conference call we're having, and just feel the waves of things that people are really caring, and it's got a momentum, and so we should report to who do we report to the chat box or to?
Do you mean in the planning or with the actual event
I
itself?
mean, the actions that we take in the upcoming months, and just like beach cleanups and seminars and speeches and so on.
Well, it would be wonderful if people could. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Great Lakes Commons map, but that would be a great place to host some of these photographs or statements or short videos. I'm toying with the idea of creating a new category for just the journeying project, but check out the Commons map as a platform. It's pretty simple to use. There's a tutorial video as well. Each organization here today likely has a blog page which things can be shared in newsletters. So there's multiple platforms we could share some of these stories with. And I would recommend, offer the Commons map. That's what it was sort of built for, as a long-standing sort of platform. But again, I think we're all here, and there's no necessarily one way to do things, nor one source of all the information. But trying to create some common currents, to use the metaphor, it makes things stronger. And so I'm hosting, as Commons is hosting these conversations to create those sort of common currents. But obviously there's lots of other stuff going on, and for all kinds of reasons, people, are not part of this call. But, we're just doing what we can this year in 2016. But thanks for raising that around, really try to a container to hold some of these various things, because otherwise it just kind of dissipates. And then we don't necessarily harness it the way we'd like. So.
And all the actions that we take can be reported to the local newspaper, and it can be even more powerful locally in all their locales.
Yeah, and just for a bit of context, like another reason why this sort of common currents idea of the journey has come to be is because we really feel there's a story here that we're trying to tell. Not just an abstract story around like what if we acted a certain way when it comes to the Great Lakes, but we use this journeying, these various journey examples, involving various kinds of motion. But you could even sort of like be creative in what we mean by motion. We could talk about emotions. We could talk about moving from one story to another story, or moving, shifting ideas or crossing norms, cultural norms, gender norms, whatever. So we could open up this idea of journeying in ways that fit our common current. But part of my job this for the rest of the year is to create media coverage on a higher scale, well beyond just the audience of Great Lakes Commons, is to generate a larger story that can be told to a broader audience around what is this sort of common confluence about. And how we can point to these because media like a hook. They like a story that's got currency. And I feel like the parts of this story here that's in the making right now will have a greater chance of getting a media story than just doing things in isolation. So it's on the radar.
Great.
I wanted to ask Jen.
Yep.
I would like to ask Jen if she could put on the Journeys Google Doc about where one can, the information about how to test the lake on your own. I mean, how everyone can participate.
Yeah,
that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, it's actually already in there.
It is. I was looking for it.
Yeah, you gotta scroll down. I think I'm on page 3. Yeah, page 3. So what you can do is visit the X-Expedition website. And what I'm really encouraging people to do is to register for the event. It all comes to me. But basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to really get a big picture of where are people signing up from, how do they want to participate, and why they're taking part. And then what I'm going to do is I'll be emailing out personal information plaques, which will have all of those connections to those organizations and all of the instructions on how you can actually do the water sampling. And it's free analysis for the microplastics. So it's a pretty incredible organization to be connected to.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So that information will be on the log of this phone call? Like all
Yes,
that?
it's in the Google Doc. Yeah.
The shared Google Doc.
Okay, cool.
So it's no .ca or .com for Expedition. It's just without a .com or .ca?
It's a .com.
Or .com. Okay.
I have a question.
Please.
Jen, I'm curious, and this applies, I think, to everybody. It seems like Alex has left the call. I was curious to ask her also, and really to everybody, but I'll pose this question to you, Jen. So another dimension of the project that Children of the Wild is working on, and that I'm carrying myself, is the form of documentary film and videos, ongoing videos. And so we're touring this show, a theater show, and that is the vehicle that we're using to travel across the lakes with. And I myself am a filmmaker, and on that vehicle, we're creating a film about our journey. And this film is largely the story of our trip, and our trip is defined by the relationships that make it what it is, and the relationships that we have found and that we have come into and are cultivating are largely have been because of and thanks to and with the Great Lakes Commons. But even more widely than just GLC as an organization, it's been strictly with people on the Great Lakes and people who care about the lakes in all kinds of ways. And so that's how I see our work, the film work, especially in the video work, also tying into a lot of this, and what I would want to put out there and to offer, as just keeping that in mind as we're traveling across the lakes from Buffalo to Duluth this summer, filming and making connections for that. If you have, like, Jen, I think of your project as a great example of something that would fit into this documentary, there's so much potential here. Some of it, there could be a video that you can use for your own, part of a larger documentary that ends up becoming more about the Great Lakes.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about that, Gus, because I'm actually a filmmaker myself. So I filmed the journey across the Atlantic, and you can actually watch my documentary for free on the Expedition website. But I have a film company that I set up in the UK, and I've been always focused on environmental and social responsibility projects and expeditions. So I love the fact that you're going to be filming your journey, and I would love to talk to you more about how we can work together, because I kind of had this unique idea to maybe ask people to send in their footage of their day when they take part, so that I can tell their story. And I don't know what that would look like. And I'm kind of excited by it, because it's the same as, giving people a little bit of structure, but saying, hey, make your day your own. However you love your greats, show me how you love your greats and what do they mean to you. And I think, you and I could maybe talk about, and Susan, I know you're a filmmaker as well. So it'd be great to kind of put our heads together and see what we might be able to put together, as this sort of little family that's coming out of all of these conversations. It's exciting. But yeah, thank you for raising that. And I'm looking forward to talking more.
That's very
I'll add that Lorraine's a community television producer, ex-producer, and I used to do community television as well. Made some amateur documentaries.
Look at this.
The filmmaker.
Which is storytellers here on the phone line.
Yep.
Very good. I've seen his stuff.
I wanted to get the New York folks in here a little bit more with these ideas of some sort of like Southern Shore journey. And maybe, Robert, your knowledge of cycling and events, and how do we create a bit more momentum here? Who do we need to? How can we get a bit more energy with because Gus and folks are starting in Buffalo, Lake Ontario is kind of missing out. Never mind the St. Lawrence, although I've got some leaks on that. So how can we get some movement on the south side of Lake Ontario? Anybody?
Well, if anything is going on, consider a stop in Fairhaven, because maybe we can build some sort of day or some sort of occurrence over your stop in Fairhaven if we know about it ahead of time. And we have some facilities and some potential places that you could stay. There's a state park, and we have a good waterfront restaurant with cooperative people that have some dockage available, and so we might be able to connect you somehow with Fairhaven, which is where my boating is based out of.
And let's see, if we could also connect with some Rochester groups and just groups along the lake that are doing them, and if we could connect, that would be, we could have do a journey that's connected.
Patty, did you want to reach out or give me some names, or can we do this together about sending some invites or getting a conversation going?
Yeah, I don't know names, but except Susan. I know Susan who just spoke, and we're tuned into each other in this. But
I think we need to connect with the Sierra Club ladies.
The Sierra Club is strong in Rochester. That's a good one.
Whoever, Rachel maybe, and
I can we can find that out, but I don't know beyond Rochester what's out there. But we can work on it.
Because if there's a beach cleanup, or if there's a sort of a celebratory bike ride, or a sort of active club of any sort that has a stewardship ethic, or could be aligned with a stewardship ethic, we'd love to sort of work with them and maybe kind of cross-pollinate a little bit and rub off some common stuff onto them a little bit, and just meet some people. And even if it's 50 miles or 20 miles on either side of Fairhaven, hey, that's something to build on, So
right.
Let's keep in touch, and let me know if I can. And so, Robert, when it comes to cycling in South Shore or even on the North Shore, Robert, do you have any ideas here of how to create some energy around Lake Ontario here?
Well, I belong to a ski club here in Toronto, and in the summer we don't ski, of course, we cycle. And we actually had a meeting just last week, or planning to plan our summer schedule for this coming year. And I know we have a few, about a dozen or so rides through the summer, and I can think of 3 or 4 at least that are along the lakefront, in the west end, and even this one in Hamilton area, a couple out in the east end, like in Oshawa and Whitby area, which is east of Toronto. So I know we're having those kind of coming up, and I'm wondering how we can tie those into the Great Lakes Commons theme. I don't know if anybody else on the phone call here is in Toronto and cycles, but if you're interested in those, I can easily pass on that information to you. So that might be something we can tie in. There's also has anybody ever heard of Manitoulin Island, which is in Lake Huron, Georgian Bay?
Heard of it.
A lot of heads nod, yeah.
Heard of it, yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, Manitoulin Island's they have a very active cycling committee now, and they have been hosting last 6 or 7 years, I think, they've been hosting a weekend up on the island. You have to get there from the south. You basically either have to go around Georgian Bay, which is pretty long, or you can go up on the ferry, which is a bit more of a shortcut. They're offering a free ferry ride for the first weekend in June. Come on over, enjoy cycling around Manitoulin Island, and they'll supply some meals and all that kind of stuff and everything. And I've heard it's a really fun time. Some friends of mine have been on it twice, and they call themselves lifers now. They're going to be going every year. And I'm hoping to go myself this year. It's coming up in June 4th and 5th. So that's and that's basically sitting Georgian Bay is a huge part of Lake Huron, part of the Great Lakes. So that's an event that might tie into the Great Lakes Commons theme as well. As far as other things going on this year, I can't think of anything right now. I have been on rides in the past, focused on the Great Lakes, and we've had some great weekends and 4 and 5 day long trips, you know, riding along the Great Lakes, enjoying the scenery, enjoying the nature part of it, just, you know, like I said, enjoying the gift that we have.
Thanks, Robert. So we mentioned Fairhaven, but the Rochester Canoe Club, does anybody have connections there? I mean, I was there in 2012, but it'd be so great to get them back in the loop, if possible, into some of this Water Commons work, not only for, you know, a sail, but again, connecting with Jen's projects and with Children of the Wild. I would love to reach out to them. I just don't know anybody anymore. Does anybody have connections with the Rochester Canoe Club?
Maybe we could find out, Susan.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't have any connections.
Okay.
But we can work on it. The Sierra Club might know. Is there any way we could get the theater performers, Children of the Wild, to come to at least Rochester or Fairhaven or something?
There are definite possibilities. The short
Good.
is,
Keep us in mind.
we have our tour kind of booked at this point. So we know that we're performing in Massachusetts on May 1st, and we know that we're performing, that we'll be arriving in Buffalo on in the very beginning of June. Did I say June 1st? I meant May 1st. And we'll be in Buffalo beginning of June, in the month of June. And so there is going to be little time in May for us to be going to Rochester, but so that's this summer. But we're thinking very long term about our relationships with the lakes and this work. And so I'm speaking so much about the immediacy of the summer and this tour we're on. But it's important to keep in mind that we're as an ensemble, we're thinking long term about future tours. And so now is a great time to be thinking about 2017, 2018. It's a good thing to be now having these conversations about maybe we don't come to Fairhaven this year, but maybe next summer.
Maybe, yeah, in the future.
Yes, absolutely, and that's something that's something I want to do. So yes, the answer.
That like we should stay in touch on. Yeah.
Right, and maybe even Rochester this year. Well, we can talk to some of our Sierra Club people. That would be an idea. Okay.
Yeah.
I would think Sierra Club would be interested in that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I've always wanted to. We wanted to include Rochester in our tour from the beginning, and for whatever the reasons were, we ended up finding people in Buffalo early on and not finding you yet. Took us until now to find you, and we just hadn't had a footing in Rochester, and so it didn't develop the way. But I think that's just how these things go, and so. We're very excited about. We want to be on Lake Ontario. We want to go to Rochester, especially. So yeah, I think it's great that we're meeting and talking now.
So how about?
So do I.
One second. So how about this? I would love to work between this meeting and the next meeting with the Fairhaven or Rochester folks on an event that we could either start from and do a little of a walk or a bike, or something that we could bike or walk or paddle to. And even though Children of the Wild can't necessarily be there this year, I would love to come and be part of an event and speak and show some videos and talk about, have conversations. We are developing a toolkit as well for the Great Lakes Commons. And for those who haven't seen our Commons Charter, we'd love to sort of share that. And so I think if there is even 5 people who want to help organize, 3 who want to help organize an event in Fairhaven and or Rochester, I think we could get 50 people out. And I would definitely come to that. I'm going to be very mobile this summer, and so let's start working on that. I would love that.
All right.
You have a standing invitation to sail with us if you make it to Fairhaven.
Yeah. So let's think about after this call or whatever. Let's think about. Let's share our calendars a bit more and see June, July, August, and then narrow it down a little bit. I've got lots of windows still. I'd love to find a common time, at least for the organizers who are all going to be in the area, and then pick it up. If get Sierra Club involved, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there. You could make it a part of X Expedition Great Lakes. make it the 20th of August.
Well, I'll be further west by then, actually.
Okay, well, there you go then.
I do have a certain structure, but yeah, it can be. Well, I think earlier we could work something out. I would love to visit that area again for multiple reasons, including seeing Susan's boat. So.
Yeah, you never got to sail on her last year.
We're making it happen.
We'll make it happen.
Awesome. I think it's good to maybe try to end this phone call in about 15 minutes if we could. I mean, I think in some ways we could go on and on and on, but I really respect everyone's time, and I think if we have a certain time frame for this call, we can make the most of it. And so we've gone through various sort of themes and patterns around, trying to connect different dots. I'd love to spend the last 10 minutes on just continuing this flow of what about this and what about that. And so this is really an open forum for everybody to use the chat box or to ask a question, to say, hey, what about, or I know somebody, or how can we bring something? I'd love to use the last bit of time for that if we could.
I have an idea. My daughter's first boyfriend used to work for the Argonauts Row Club. Or maybe he still does, I don't know. But she took rowing for 4 years in high school. And he was a manager at the Argonauts Row Club. And he lives not too far from me. And I walk to work, I pass his house. And so I could contact him if we could use their rowboats or their whatever for a cleanup or journeying or something. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a great connection to make, Dawn. Thanks for offering. I do think rowing is a bit of a specialized thing that I don't think anyone can just jump on and do without maybe drowning. But it'd be great if the Argonaut Club, and that's not far from me as well right now, if we could figure something out, either with their existing members and having an event. Again, it could align with the expedition sort of thing. I would love if we could maybe think about send an invite, either share part of the website, the Great Lakes Commons website with this manager, or get a bit more information on what are some of their existing events. What do they have coming up already? Either in terms of a social, maybe they have like a community night where they've got an open house or they've got invited speakers. So let's talk further, Dawn, around what they're already doing, and maybe just share with them this opportunity that we could figure something out. I think that would be great. They're on the water. It's a great club. And
I'll contact her ex-boyfriend. He goes to my church. And so I see him quite often, and I'll just contact him and tell him what we're talking about.
That'd be great. That's where it starts, just test the waters, I guess.
And are all these activities going to be posted like on a Great Lakes Common website for like people to tune into and advertised so that they can look at what's going on? I had some experience with Great Lakes United where we put together Great Lakes Week and tried to have all the different organizations do something during that particular week, but it doesn't have to be a week, 1 week, but, and so that we could keep track and put all of them on one calendar. And our organization, our own organization, Save Oswego County, used to do all different activities in Oswego and around in Oswego County.
Do you have a connection? Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need a connection for Oswego.
Well, there's no longer. Unfortunately, I was the president of the organization when I left. I don't know, a couple years later, the organization, I believe, folded. So we weren't doing it anymore. Now there's a big, the same week, because it was kind of popular, the county kind of liked it. And so now they have, what do they call it? Harbor Fest.
Yes. Yeah, that's huge.
Which has nothing to do with harbor.
It's a huge entertainment. I don't know how ecologically centered it is.
Right.
But
It's not anymore. It was when we were, doing Great Lakes Week, but when we no longer were doing that, then the county kind of took over, and then they started that. So
maybe we can get an aspect of ecology involved in that Harbor Fest again. I don't know.
Right. It would be nice.
Yeah.
Because it's huge.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a connection.
So many people that
Oswego.
go. Yeah, there's so many people that go to
huge.
Harbor Fest. It's amazing. It wasn't that popular when we were doing ecological issues, except the one time that we had the chief of the Onondagas come and tell stories, because of their respect for the ecology and so forth. That was our biggest program.
Okay,
Right.
well, I think Sally's first part of that was around tracking the various updates and whatever. And I think it's we could definitely use the Commons map for that. There isn't the idea of a calendar yet, but that definitely is a good one of putting this in a calendar timeline. So we could have both a map and a timeline. This would be great. And so once we've confirmed the dates, we could take the Google document that we started as a sort of a rough draft and we could refine that into an actual calendar. So I think a calendar works well. I'm seeing thumbs up from Gus. And so, we can totally do a calendar if that to help people plan and see the larger picture.
Right.
Would this be on the Great Lakes Commons site itself, Paul?
Yeah, we could put the calendar in there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have I just want to ask a question to Lorraine and to Jen, and to put this out there because I see a confluence between the Lake Superior Day, which looks like it would be on July 17th. So that's about a month before the August 20th day, and it seems like those are two events that are spread out geographically. Lake Superior Day, I'm assuming, would be. So Lorraine, I'm curious a little bit more about what that day entails. Is that across the entire lake? Because that might be a great opportunity if there are multiple events or something happening on that day to plant the seed of August 20th. Then you have an audience. You have people coming together who obviously care about the lake. So to use that as a way for us to be working together to encourage people to plant the seed of August 20th in their head then. And also that makes me wonder if there's a Lake Superior Day, is there a Lake Ontario Day? Is there a Lake Michigan Day? Does anyone know any of these other questions?
So that's a great, so I think Lorraine had to go. So that question will have to, we'd email to her, I'm sure. But as far as I know, there is no other lake beyond Superior that has a day on its own, at least not in recent history that I know of. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize Lorraine had left already. But that's all. Yeah, we'll connect. Follow up. Yeah. Well, Jen, have you thought about how the Lake Superior Day could be a pre-event or precursor into the August 20th?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Gus. Thanks for raising it, and I'll connect with Lorraine maybe as you and I go forward and talk about how I can help you out in whatever way I can, and we talk about filmmaking and stuff. Maybe we can connect with her and see how that might work. Also, to encourage people to look out for you guys. As she's talking about the fact that you're going to be coming to Lake Superior later in the summer as well, right? So it's a great opportunity. And the other thing I'll just mention, kind of in terms of what we're hoping with X Expedition Great Lakes is that this is really, as I said, this jumping off point, and that I've started another initiative called Love Your Greats. And I'm really hoping that the 20th of August will become an annual Love Your Greats Day.
That's such a good name.
Yeah. And it surprised me that nobody had taken it yet. And I was like, yes. So
like, oh, well, something obviously already has that name.
Right. I was surprised. But, and I'm hoping that, that's something that we can this will be a kickstart, and then we can take it forward. And, as I said, plastics is a great entry point for people because it's tangible. There's no denying that it's a human-made problem, and that the solution has to come from humans as well. So it's but hopefully, going forward, as you said, you're already thinking about 2017. So am I.
Yes.
There's
You're
a,
great.
for those on the phone, I'm holding up, for those on the phone, there's a postcard that you can buy or just make your own, where it's a old map of the Great Lakes, and across it in bold red letters says, "You're great." So I got a bunch of these about 2 years ago for some of our leadership folks, and personalized a bunch of messages saying thanks on them. So again, we could think of some swag for all this as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What do you got to do to get one of those postcards?
Great.
I know this is my last one, guys, but if I was going to give it to anybody, it'd probably be you. So
You could scan and email them, Paul. That'd be cool.
I could do it. I could do a digital version and just sign off on it.
They'll last longer and take up less paper.
Tree.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
the plastic guys, I just remembered about a year ago I saw, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of them out there, but documentaries on plastics in the Great Lakes and stuff, and you know how they're affecting wildlife and all that. I'm wondering if we can tie one of those in somehow to one of these events you guys are talking about. I'll find out the name of the one I saw and pass it along to Paul.
Well, that would be good to know.
But it, you know, and that's I found that would be a really doing sampling is great. It's one thing, but you know, and also seeing how it affects the wildlife and all that is a really powerful vision basically.
Absolutely.
And that kind of stuck in my mind, you know, sure.
I
So
would
I'll
like
pass
to.
on that name of that documentary to Paul, so maybe we can tie that in somehow to one of these events you're talking about. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you, Robert, for sure. And I mean, that's the thing. It's not just a case of, you know, going out on the day and taking part. There's a lot of, you know, education that has to happen around it and people understanding why they're out doing that. And, you know, there's so many different implications of plastics being out there in the environment for the whole system. It's not, you know, not just wildlife, but wildlife are severely impacted by it just through ingestion and entanglement, but people's real lack of knowledge about the human factor too. And that's a huge space and energy for change. People, if they know it affects them, they're going to change.
Okay.
I work in a school system, and I would like to ask our biology teacher to do this water sampling, and see. I don't know. I mean, the schools talk the talk, but I don't know if they walk the walk. And you know, they're all busy with their curriculum and so on, and I don't know if they ever figure out time to do something a little bit, you know, that's maybe not on the curriculum. But I'm going to check that out, and. You know, plastic is a huge issue. I'm knowing that, and but I see it all over the place in the schools and the utensils they use, and it's a big waste.
Yeah, and Patty, if you have any questions, just get in touch.
Yeah, I can
Okay,
put you in touch. Patty, I think I emailed you already the Google Doc, and
I got that.
In the address bar, you'll see Marina's email as well. Marina, her phone died. She messaged me. She was on earlier, but she's the grade 8 teacher, and she would love to hear from you and talk to you about resources and curriculum. And so feel free to. I'm sure I shared it. I'm sure she's fine with it. Just Marina was her name, and Nico, and then just back to the film ideas of Robert and others who've spoken about it. You know, whether it be for Fairhaven or Rochester, I would love to come down, do a screening. We can use a couple of these events, and Gus and I have talked about this already. You know, before their performances, they're going to be in these communities for a while. We're going to be doing events. And so I talked to Jen a little bit about, you know, pre-August 20th, about having an event beforehand. And I think short films on the various aspects of these issues can not only help really inform people and give everybody sort of shared information, but can create some great dialogues, not because the issues are important, but because of the combination of issues. And so if we look at issues of plastics, issues of energy, issues of boiled water, issues of treaties, just to name a few, there's a documentary, a full-blown documentary that's just come out about the commons, you know, internationally, in which Great Lakes Commons is just one small part of that. I think showing full or parts of these documentaries, depending on how long they are, could be part of a journey screening sort of series that has multiple locations that can complement, so that when we're in Buffalo or Fairhaven or on the Grand River, and we're talking about plastics and we're talking about whatever, we can connect that to the X Expedition project. And when we talk about our feelings of hope and despair, we can connect this to the Rewilding and the Wastelands Project of Children of the Wild as either coming to town or has just left town, and we're sort of coping with that. And so I see that not only the performances and the events themselves, as we're talking about, but potentially some using from film screenings to go before or after to help, to sort of help us, wrestle with all of these things is a great way. And again, the issues in combination, commons, plastics, treaties, relationships, emotions, can really help us get that fuller picture than just having a movie night on Line 5 or just having a movie night about plastics. I mean, each has its role, but I think part of the goal, as I mentioned earlier, as this journeying thing, is to really cross some of these boundaries and think about, transiting across issues as well. So I find, and others who probably, especially the folks who mentioned Great Lakes United years ago, there are so many issues that often are really symptoms of a deeper issue around relationship, ethics, governance, sovereignty, that we rarely get to speak about. And we spend a lot of time talking about these threats because we have to. And how do we do both? How can we really get to where we need to go so we can be a bit more proactive? And I would love to play a role in any of that, whether it's Commons use all of its resources to do any of that in conjunction with the resources and gifts and energies that people here today have offered as well.
Yeah, if only we weren't always preaching to the choir.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's true.
Don't underestimate the power of the choir.
The choir needs to be energized. It helps us.
It's true. It's
But you need to get to the other people as well, so that they realize what they're doing to themselves and their environment.
Well, I think if you can make something fun, like it'll attract people, and then in that fun you can educate people as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think combining art with some of these more left brain things really seems to kind of hit the button. I'm really impressed with that.
Sorry, go ahead. Yep.
I did a talk with my Franciscan fraternity on climate change and water and everything, and we saw the video how wolves change rivers, and the priest said that it's all good about the environment and everything is good, but one thing that has to change from the person, from within. It has to start from within, from the person, to change and be different and, bring about education and that. And that's very important. It's one thing to talk and say this and that and the other, but the badness and all those, but it's from within, like the person themselves start within themselves. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And go out forth to education and change the world and change everybody else. But it has to start within themselves to change themselves.
Thanks, Don.
Do you know what I'm saying, everyone?
But I think we're all, like, a lot of these things we're talking about are about creating awareness, right? And then we have to create awareness so that people can have something to think about, that they can make changes that you're just talking about. You have to realize. What's that?
Say it again, Susan?
I say that's why we're writing books and now trying to make a video.
Yeah, that's what gets us up in the morning.
Well, I want to
floats my boat.
Paul, I just want to affirm what you said with the power of videos, and I think that we can think about it also in terms of the written word and all these other. But I think of it like bioaccumulation, like Don. I totally resonate with what you're saying, and I think it's true that the change starts within, and that's what's primary. But I think that these, just like the threats accumulate, or just like the plastic accumulates, the responses to the threats accumulate too. And if we're developing patterns of sharing these stories, and the videos and the written word and these other ways are good forms to be sharing these stories that and we're in concert, we're trained with each other, then it can accumulate and become something like, I think, incredibly bigger than all of us. And so I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
These are some great closing words, folks. I'm so glad we are getting to this level of discussion, not just logistics, but so the inner workings of change, personal, social. Great. I think.
Jen, Jen, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so it's JEN@xxBEDITION.com.
Yeah, so it's spelled expedition with 2 X's. So don't forget the E on the start.
Wow, but it bounced back.
Just to mention, there's an important E in there.
Yes, an E. Okay. EXXEPIDITION.com.
Perfection.
Okay, I'll send you that information.
Great, thanks so much.
I'd like to know more information about what you guys are doing.
Great, I look forward to speaking more.
Okay, lovely.
Great, folks. Well, I think lots of follow-up to be done with smaller groups on this larger group, especially me and these New Yorkers. I'd love to sort of follow up with some screenings and a talk of some cycling. Robert, I'll see you soon as well, and love to get on the bicycle. Kate, or not Kate, Jennifer, we'll be in touch, and I will be on Lake Superior and on Lake Huron this summer. So let's look at our calendars. Best. Never a week goes by without us reconnecting, and so look forward to that. And Don, the rowing club in Parkdale, Don, let's see what they're up to. I would love to sort of see how that. I love sailing. I love
on the 22nd.
Say it again.
What are people doing on Earth Day on the 22nd next week?
Well, I'm plugging my book up in Oswego.
Email me what your plans are, Don, and we'll go from there.
Well, I plan to go to a rummage sale at a church.
That sounds like more fun than going to a bookstore.
Well,
it's a gigantic church. It's a gigantic gymnasium with a rummage sale. They have everything there. Furniture, clothing, knickknacks, shoes, food, books, everything.
Wonderful. Well, please email me any follow-up, and I will do my best. Rochelle had to go. She says goodbye in the chat box for those on the phone. And I will send out I'm going to send out some notes from today. Keep us all in the loop. Thanks for your time, everyone. I know it's evening. It's been a long day probably for everybody, so I really respect and honor. We'll do it again.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you.
Questions?
I so look forward to meeting everyone.
Thanks, Don.
Nice to meet you, quote unquote, meet.
Yes, Sally, for sure.
Yeah.
Sally?
Paul, what is your email address so I can send you my email?
I've already emailed you, I think.
Oh, you did? You did have it? Okay.
You RSVP'd, right? So I just copied it off the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's my one. Yeah.
Next meeting, Paul.
Say it again?
When is our next meeting?
I don't know yet.
Will you let us know?
Give me make sure we've got your email and check the website.
Yeah.
Social media. Okay, everyone. Great to talk.
Okay, I'm glad I finally made it.
Okay, great. Me too.
Love you all. Take care. God bless.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
We are water.
Bye.
See you later.
Water.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.